Earlier this month, we brought you a story about a big shift in criminal charge outcomes in Ontario and how a growing number of cases are being thrown out without ever making it to trial. 5 years ago, the province's Auditor General made recommendations aimed to help address this. But even as the case numbers grow, the province won't collect data that the Auditor General says he thinks would help. Sarah MacMillan has been working on this story for us. So Sarah, let's start with a quick recap. What are these stats? What do they show about the charges that are now being thrown out?
Yeah, Dwight, so in the past decade, there's been this pretty significant shift in the outcome of criminal cases in Ontario. So the latest numbers from Statistics Canada show that now more than half of all criminal cases are resulting in the charges being stayed, withdrawn, or dismissed without ever being tested at trial. But while we were doing research for that previous story, we found it was hard to get a real kind of full sense, a full picture of what exactly is contributing to that, what exactly is happening here. You know, we did speak with people in the justice system. We talked about some of the challenges, including courtroom shortages, staffing issues, but there was no real way to get kind of a full picture of what's happening in our court system and what's contributing to that shift, those numbers that I mentioned. And we were not the first to identify this challenge. Back in 2019, Ontario's Auditor General made recommendations to try to address that.
All right, so what are these recommendations?
So the recommendations are that the province should track the reasons for charges being stayed or withdrawn. The goal is to try to save money and to make sure that cases are making it through the system. In a follow-up report in 2021, the Auditor General said that having that kind of high-level overview would help the province to identify some of the factors contributing to delays that we're seeing and help to proactively manage that. I spoke with Douglas Judson with the Ontario Federation of Law Associations, and he agrees with the Auditor General. He says that having data is key.
If we are serious about addressing delay in the system and identifying bottlenecks and monitoring the effectiveness of courts administration and even tracking things like inequities that impact overrepresented groups in the courts that are before the courts, I think we have to get serious about whether an open court principle includes a right to open data about the court.
So Sarah, why has the province not followed these recommendations?
So the Ministry of the Attorney General has given a few different reasons over the years. Back when the Auditor General did a follow-up report in 2021, the ministry said that tracking the reasons for stays and withdrawals would not benefit the administration of justice, and that also argued that it risked affecting the independent judgment of prosecutors. In 2023, the ministry told a standing committee that the only way to capture all of this data of cases being tossed would be to manually go through transcripts and recordings from each individual case, and said that doing so would not provide value for money. Now, just earlier this year, Dwight, our current Auditor General, Shelley Spence, spoke at a different standing committee, and she said then that it would not be necessary to go through individual transcripts. She said that her office's recommendations could be achieved without doing that. She also said at that meeting that, if you don't know, you can't manage. I spoke with Shahir Hakim with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and I asked him for his thoughts on the province's value for money argument.
Money is available. It's about where is it being spent and why. And, I think things like data collection, they aren't maybe the most eye-catching on the headlines, right? But they can be so important to ensure that we have evidence-based solutions to these issues.
Now, we did also reach out to the Ministry of the Attorney General for this story. The ministry says that it does now have an internal tracking system where prosecutors can track reasons for stays and withdrawals at the individual case level, but it's still not something that's happening across the board. The ministry says it is also taking steps to specifically track cases that are at risk of being stayed due to unreasonable delays.
Sarah MacMillan joining us from the newsroom. Thank you, Sarah.